Hey guys, as promised, ready to finish up this June Sew Sampler, this Peach Preserve by FigTree. I am so excited to be sharing this with you guys. I've got my finishing touches all lined up, including how to make Y-seams with these rulers in the fast and easy method. So let's jump right on in. Hey guys, welcome back to my sewing room. I'm Kelly and you found me here on Pick and Stitches, and today, as promised, we're going to finish up this quilt. This is Peach Preserve. It's a sew sampler from Fat Quarter Shop. It's the one from June, and we're going to be finishing this out with this FigTree line, and I'm so excited to show you all the tips and tricks I have on how to finish it up. So last time we finished up the quilt top. Now we're going to be working on the back and the binding and our label, and I'm even going to show you how to use that same ruler that we got in the kit to be able to make these Y seams so that we can make this final label. And I hope you guys will join me. It is definitely a skill that seems intimidating, but it is really quite simple once you get into it and you have a little practice with it, and I hope you'll join me. Let's jump right on in. Okay guys, so now we're going to put our quilt top together. I've already got all my pieces laid out on my board, and the one thing that I want to point out to you, I said the right side and the left side. That's not exactly true. So we have our two different hooks here. So we're going to use one of each hook. So this is what we call the right hand hook, and this was a left hand hook, but it doesn't really matter. You're going to use one of each. It's going to pair together, and I've already sewn this top row together. That's why it's narrower. So we're going to start off with one of our hooks that's going to match up, and the pattern is really good at outlining this for you guys. And then you're going to put the alternating one here, then our diamonds are going to push through. We're going to make another hook, and then there's half of one on the bottom. So I put this top row together, and honestly I did like walk to the sewing machine, sew it, press it, come hold it up against the wall, make sure it's still right, and then come back, because for whatever reason on this equilateral triangle, my brain is just not getting it. I got to where towards the end of these 30 blocks or 35 blocks, that became a little bit more second nature, but I just was really worried that I was going to stitch something on wrong. So normally I would just pick up starting on this side and put it on top and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and take my whole stack to the sewing machine and sew them all together. But I'm going to be a little bit more careful on this one. So I just took the first two pieces off of this right hand side and held where I want to sew it, and then I'm going to take it to the machine and sew it. So I will meet you guys back here after we've got all of our rows put together. I've got my hook from the outside edge, and I'm just going to put my seams together. The way that I pressed this was probably a little bit willy-nilly. I don't think I saw any pressing directions in this one, and it just didn't. They are not nesting, and I didn't press open, so. But it actually didn't seem too bad on that first row, so hopefully when I attach the first row to the second row, I can still say the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to set that seam and then press it open, and I'll set the clapper on it for just a second while and I really am. I'm going to take this back to the design wall and make sure that I don't mess this up. Maybe by the 4th or 5th row I won't be so scared of it. Oh, see, there's one that nests. I think I hit like 3 seams on that top row that nested. The rest of them didn't. All right. Set the seam, press it open, make sure I'm making a straight row and I didn't do something crazy. Okay, on to the second row. And I just sewed the first piece on. I forgot to hit record, but as I walked back to my design wall, I grabbed the next piece and I almost oriented it the wrong way, guys. I don't know why this triangle pattern has my number, but it has my number. Oops, arms over here. I'm used to ironing on the other side of the room. All right, I'm going to save the clapper for the very end. It's a nesting seam. Oh my gosh, you guys, they both nest. That's a first. Guys, I keep forgetting my irons over here. It's too funny. We're such creatures of habits. Just thinking about what I want to do for the back and label and all that stuff, and my brain was just on autopilot. You ever do that? You guys, I just have another one that nests. I feel lucky. I still feel like I want to pin it though. That one feels a little wonky. All these bias seams, and you know I starched quite a lot, but there is still some give in this fabric. Ouch. Some give in my finger too. Alright, now I just have the end cap to add to it, and we will be done with this row. So these are nesting as well. If they feel like they're a little wonky, then I'm going to pin it, but these feel okay. So all right, so this is our last press on this one, and I am going to take this over to the ironing board and press the whole thing out and get all of my clappers on them. But I think this is turning out to be really, really cute. Okay guys, I'm living brave. I picked up 3. So this is the 3rd row that I'm doing. No, this is the 4th row that I'm doing, and I'm going to live dangerously. So I didn't pick up the entire row. I just picked up the last 3 pieces, and if I can do this, then maybe I can think this through. Okay, so obviously not my true far left piece, but it is the far left of what I picked up, and this was the next one. Yeah, I just feel like this is going to keep swinging around and I'm going to get them all mixed up. I really probably just need to stay with my system. I've only got 2 rows left, and thus far I haven't sewn anything on the wrong side, at least not that I've found. really do love this machine. It is a workhorse. Yeah, see, like right now, because I'm working from the middle, I like don't know for sure where my end is. I know that I just sewed it like this. So it's probably going to be right here, but now I'm going to go back to the wall and double check. Yeah, when I started to lay out all of these squares, I'm, usually kind of have an idea of how I want to orient everything, but it's like every time I would rotate one of the triangles because something was touching, it was like something else was touching. It felt like a kid's puzzle or something. So I spent a long time getting that up there and kind of organized in a way that looked right to me. So not only do I not want to sew them on completely wrong, but I really don't want to change the order either. Okay, back to my original plan. So now I've got these 3 pieces and I'm just going to go back to the board and add to this far side. Well, I've definitely pinned more on this quilt than I have in quite a while. Okay. So we've got one more row to go, and just to give you a data point, I feel like it's taking me about 10 minutes per row in real time, and that's with all of my getting up and walking back and forth. I'm sure you guys, if you can pick all your pieces up at once, you can get it done a lot faster, but I'm just trying to be careful and make sure I don't make any mistakes. Okay guys, one more row, and then we get to stitch our rows together. Well, I'm happy to report that my get up, sit down, get up, sit down, get up, sit down method at least kept me in line, and I did not attach any of my pieces wrong yet. I will meet you back at the design. All of our rows are complete. I've got them all up in order. I'm still using the heck out of this design wall because I'm so scared that I'm gonna mess something up again. But the next step, according to the directions, is to take the, sorry, I've got lots of pins in it because it kept falling down, is to take these outer edges and to go ahead and square them up. I think I'm gonna wait. I think I'm going to do it when I square up my quilt because it's not gonna bother me. I am my own long armor. I'm gonna immediately get this going and get it finished. So I think when I square up my whole quilt is when I'm going to go ahead and cut it off because I don't think it's gonna make it any harder to sew. So the next step that I'm going to do is just take this top row and sew it onto the second row. And then I'm going to probably sew the third row on it, and then I'll do the bottom into 2, and then I'll join here. So there's probably going to be a lot of pinning on this one because there are quite a few joints, and this is going to be the center of our stars. So you definitely want to make sure that your seam is accurate and that you're getting those right in the center where you want them. You know how I always say I'm not a pinner? Well, now I'm a pinner. In fact, I'm going to move this down so you guys can see a little bit better. I threw so many pins in this one because there are so many joints, and I just really want them all to turn out perfect. Not perfect, perfection perfect, but just look nice. So I threw a lot of pins in here. I used that same poke a pin method that we talked about in the video on the beginning of this quilt. So I'll put a link here and let you guys know where to find that video if you didn't watch video number 1. But basically I just poked a pin from the back to the front where all my stars come together, and that's how I use it to align where I want my join to be. So we're going to be super careful with this first one, and if it turns out great, maybe I can relax on the next one. All right, let's see, how'd we do? Oh, I like that one. And I like that one. Now, I had one that I kind of had to fudge on here, so let's see how well I fudged. I fudged pretty well. That one is like maybe 1/8 of an inch. See? I'm going to have to go back and reinforce it. Oh, yeah, this is just that same pattern again. So that turned out well. Yay, guys. I'm so excited. I will go press it and then grab the other piece that we're going to sew onto this one, and we'll do this again. We are all pinned and ready to go. So remember, this is the third section that is, oh, don't unthread, that is going to be on the, we've got row 1, 2, and this is the third row. And then I'm going to put this on the design wall, and I'm going to do row 4 and 5 together, just so it's not so unwieldy. You can do them all in a row, but that's how I like to kind of manage the bulk, if you will. Ow, I just left one of my poke pins in there and I poked myself. Did I do it more than once? I did. I'm losing my mind today. They're all in here. Okay, I would like to stab myself a couple fewer times this round. All right, how'd we do? Let's take a peek. So that's my seam allowance. That's fine. I like that one. Oh, I didn't get that one stitched down well. Let's get back in there. That was the one I was having to cheat the most on. So it is right there. We'll sew it from this side this time so I can see what I'm doing. And you know, there are some people who are precision quilters. And I like to be as accurate as I can be, but I kind of describe my style as like a farmhouse quilter, if you will. Like, you know, you think about farmhouse decor, it's really cute, it's put together well, but sometimes it might be, you know, a little bit rough around the edges when you go and give it a really close look. So is that the perfect corner? No, it's not, but I am totally a-okay with it, and I would let it ride in this quilt, and that makes me happy. Most of them are going to come together a little bit cleaner than that, but that's okay. At the end of the day, I'm probably the only person that's ever going to see that. No one else will ever notice it, especially once it gets washed, because I pre-wash all my quilts before I gift them. All right, I'll throw this back on the design wall. We're going to get row 4 and row 5. Let's get row 4 and 5 sewn together. Sorry guys, I'm having an indecisive moment. I'm just wondering if I maybe did this wrong. I'm gonna put it back on the design wall because I do not want to make a mistake. Okay guys, I took this all the way back to the design wall. I actually had the first 3 sections upside down on my design wall, so I got myself completely thoroughly confused, and I finally got it all straightened out. And what I walked away with is, I don't think I've talked about this before, But whenever you get your stuff on your design wall or dining room table or bed or floor or wherever it is that you lay it all out, take a picture. Take a picture so that if you ever go, oh gosh, wait, where was this? This was there. Why am I confused? You can pull up the picture, which is what I just did, and get everything back the way it's supposed to be. Easy peasy. Because there have been a couple quilts where I did not take a picture and I'm like, oh good golly, what am I going to do now? And then you spend another half hour kind of figuring everything out again. So that's my tip for today. Take a picture when you get your layout the way you want it. All right, let's check her out. We've got one more seam to put the top two sections, or the top three sections rather, to the bottom two sections. I like all those corners. I think we're good to go. All right, I will press this and get it pinned and we will do our last seam together. All right, we are ready for the last seam on the front of this quilt. Yay! I hope you guys have had as much fun with this one as I have. It's definitely been additional steps and a little longer, but it has been really rewarding. Easy for me to say. What's up with my feed dogs? There we go. All right, now we're going to press. I'm going to throw it on the clappers and really get it flat, and then I'm going to put it up on the design board. All right, so I wanted to walk you through how I'm going to make this. And I think this is going to be another fun way to use this ruler. There's a lot of versatility in this ruler that I wasn't aware of until we got this box. And so I just wanted to share what I found. So you can make these all the same. You could do the 3.5, which we've made now, the 2.5, or the 1.5 pretty easily. They're going to be cut just slightly different. And I'm going to show you on a solid piece of fabric first. This is just a leftover from when I made my background triangles. So I'm going to make the 2.5 for this piece. So I'm just going to cut this down to a 2.5 inch strip. And then I'm going to take my triangle and I'm going to roll, or excuse me, my diamond, and I'm going to line it up just like I had been. Except now I'm going to look for this line on this 2.5. I'm going to line that up with the bottom corner. And because this was already one of my isosceles triangles, this is going to fit. But if it was square, then you'll just rotate it. In fact, let's just walk through that so you can see what all that will look like. Okay, so let's say I was starting with a regular strip. Oops. So I'm going to line this up with the back corner. So I'm going to make sure everything is covered, but of course that's not quite right. So what we'll do is we'll just swing it around. So I'll take my pieces, swing them around, and then I'm going to get this in the corner as much as it will go because we've cut that end off. And then I've got my diamond shape. So these are going to go between it, and this is how simple things would have been had we not pieced our honey bun. And then it wouldn't matter. You can cut it this way or whatever because you can flip the diamond around. But we were a little bit, you know, shoehorned because of the shape and dimensions of our squares. So you guys will remember this. This is the one that I cut wrong. So what I want to do is make this into a 2.5 inch strip. And just to make it easy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my strip that I've already sewn, that I messed up, and I'm going to slice off the seam, right? So that's 1/4 inch, or pretty stinking close. And then I'm going to just sew it back together. So between all 4 of those seams, we're going to take out 1 inch, which is what I want to take out. So we'll take all that off. I'm going to take it back to my machine, sew it right back together like it was. And then I'm going to press it open. So you can see I've got another one here that I've already kind of rebuilt. It's not as pretty. Then you're going to take that. Now, because these two, yes, I did 2 rows of these backwards. I cut backwards yesterday. I'm actually going to cut this one from the back because that's how it's going to work with this ruler. But that's just because this was one of my backward ones yesterday. So then I'm just going to trim it up. Swing it around so that I can hit this other corner. So I'm going to line up the 2.5, kind of split that dog ear that we cut off, and I'll hit these other sides. So then we have our 2.5 inch diamond. And so all I'm going to do is put those together to make my star. And I will show you that with this block. Okay, and I've been kind of tinkering with a couple different colors because I did mess up 2. I have the brown ones cut out. I have kind of tried them with the bubblegum pink that we didn't use from the front, but honestly I don't think that that's going to look that great on my backing, so I'm going to go with this green. I just pulled this out of my stash. I think it is another FigTree fabric, but it was not part of our kit, so sorry for that. I did look on Fat Quarter Shop's website. It looks like they have a couple of the eyelets in a green color that might match. But you'll have to kind of figure that out. Anyways, so now what we're going to do is sew this together. Now on our original pattern, these were triangles, not diamonds. So when we sew these diamonds together, we're going to be doing, dun dun dun, a couple of Y seams. And this ruler actually makes it quite easy. So I'm going to just kind of keep this here for reference so that we can think about it. And I'm going to just get 3 of my pieces separated. So those are the 3 pieces that we're going to want to sew together first. Let me get that in the camera. Hello, Kelly. And I need my ruler. Okay. So we've got our 3 pieces that we're going to sew together first. So first we're going to sew this seam. So what I'm going to do is flip that over just like I'm getting ready to sew it. And then here in the corner of this ruler, let's see if I can get it to focus. Oh, my hand's on a good background. There we go. You see that hole? We're going to use that hole to mark exactly where it is 1/4 inch in each direction. If I have a pen. So that's just with my pencil. So now I'm going to take this over to my machine and I'm going to sew down and I'm going to stop right on that dot and I'm going to backstitch a couple of stitches so that it is nice and held together. And we'll head over to the machine and stitch that down. Okay, so I've got everything ready to go. I am going to drop my stitch length a little bit. Anytime you're trying to hit a very specific spot in your fabric, it will help you out to have a shorter stitch length so that you have more control over where that needle stops. I think I just stitched one too far. I did my back stitch and then I came forward and then I did a back stitch. I'm just going to pop, or excuse me, I came forward one past my back stitch. So I'm just going to pop that open. So when you look at it, you've got this last 1/4 inch is not actually sewn. Okay, so we'll head. Okay, so now we're going to set that seam. We're going to press this seam open. And notice when I did kind of repiece these strips, I did press all of these seams open. I feel like this is going to get kind of gnarly with a lot of really tight seams. So I'm going to break my own rule of advice and press it open. And because I want this to stay open, because if you don't keep it open in your Y seam, if it flips over while you're stitching, it really makes the fabric weird. I'm just going to give it a little starch. Again, I've already starched these quite a lot. This is just a little bit of Mary Ellen's Best Press. I've got it in a, continuous spray bottle. All right. How did I do that? So once you feel like that is nice and pressed open, here's our piece. So this is kind of the center of our star. We're putting the diamond on the outside, so it's going to go like that. And when we press our right sides together, it always feels funky to me, but this is the right way. So we're going to use our same ruler, same hole, and I'm going to pull it all the way up into that corner, and I'm going to mark my stopping point. Okay, so then we're going to take a pin. We're going to put a pin right in our point, and that pin is going to rest right here where that is split open. Okay, so I'm just going to let it rest as deep as it wants to go there. And then I'm going to rotate this until it's lined up with my first side. And this is really important because you want to stop and rotate on your machine when you get there. So once you have that where you want it, then I'm going to throw a couple pins here just to keep it from shifting. And it's a little fiddly, but it's worth it in the end. I can handle fiddly if it has a really good result. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. So I'm going to throw a pin in it there, and I'm going to throw a pin on this end. And then we're going to take it to the machine. We're going to start sewing here, stop on the dot, do not cut thread. Then we're going to lift our presser foot and rotate our work. And when I do that, this one's going to slide over to the other side, and this guy's going to kind of fold in half. So you'll see that on the machine in just a second. Okay, so we'll sew right from the end to our first dot, our only dot. I think I need to change my needle. That keeps happening. All right. And I'm going to stop right on that dot. And so I really want to make sure that that stitch length is short enough that we can do that. So then I'm going to lift up my presser foot, and I'm going to pull this top fabric over to match. And when I do that, it's going to kind of make this one want to fold in half a little bit. That's fine. It's already past the presser foot, so we don't care. And then I'm going to line it up here, get that flattened underneath, make sure there's no pleating. And then I'm going to drop my presser foot and sew the rest of my 1/4 inch seam. And then we're going to take it and go press it open. So there's no hole in the middle, there's no weird fold. And we'll go press those. So then we'll just press this open. And voila, we have a Y seam. Okay, so that's our first piece. Now we're going to do the rest of these. So you could make these 2 individually, and then we can come back and do these 3 at the end. So I'm going to just move those away. I'm going to fold this over, and I'm going to mark it just like we did before. And then I'm going to fold this one over and do the same thing. But again, I really do like to keep it all on this design board because my brain just works better that way. Okay, so I'm going to go sew these 2. And I'm just going to throw a couple pins in them so I know which side am I sewing on, because I don't ever want to assume that I know what I'm doing. Okay, so we'll take these over to the machine and we'll sew those down. So I actually flipped this one over the other way, and that's okay. I'm just going to drop my needle exactly in my 1/4 inch spot. I'm going to take 1 forward or 2, and then I'm going to take 2 back. and then I'm going to pull my pin and sew all the way off the edge. So that's just because I basically just marked the other diamond, but it's okay. Same thing here. So I'm going to start right on my dot, cut my thread, okay. So I'm still getting that same shape. I've still got my, oh, that's because I almost chain pieced it. Okay. I still have my 1/4 inch opening on each. And then we're going to go press those open with the best press again. Okay, then we'll mark our 2 spots again on our green diamonds. And then the way that this is going to fit in there feels backwards to me. I always have to set it out. All right, so we'll put our pin. That dot is not in the right spot. Okay, so we'll slide it right in that channel just like we did last time. I don't know, maybe it'll be easier if I hold the pin there and let it, oh, that works. So hold the pin, splitting the pin with splitting my fingers with the pin in the middle and let it rotate. And then I'll throw 2 pins, hold it still, and then I'll do the other one. Okay. Let it sit right in the middle. And then I'll just let it rotate. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Okay, so then we'll sew it down. Stop right one more on my dot. Okay. Then I'm going to raise my presser foot. I'm not cutting the thread, and I'm just going to rotate them. So I'm kind of pushing with this hand on the bottom fabric and turning this front fabric over. And if the green fabric I pulled out of my stash probably isn't as starched as the other fabrics from this bundle, and that probably is helping me out a little bit. These Y seams are a little hard if all of your fabrics are super stiff. All right, let's do the other one. So same thing, I'm going to sew right to the dot. Okay, lift my presser foot, hold the top fabric, push the bottom under, get them aligned. Now see, that's a wadded mess now. I want to just kind of fold that out so that it doesn't create any pleats or anything in there. All right, down we go. All right, let's go press them open. Okay, so now we have our 3 segments finished, and we're just going to put them back together. Make sure that we have all of our stripes going the right way, because it would have been easy to get those mix matched. And now we're going to do the same thing, but as these bigger pieces. So I'm just going to join these 2, stop 1/4 inch. So I'm going to flip it over, use my ruler, make a dot. That's where I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to go press that open. Okay, so I've sewn that together, pressed it open. I did press all of these seams open on the back, okay? So now we're going to connect, because that's where I left us the opening, we're going to connect this diamond onto that spot. So I'm going to flip it up, mark my dot. I do find that it is easier to do it right here on the design board while you have everything kind of oriented the right way. Not that you can't use a seam ripper, but we all prefer not to. Okay, so then I'm going to poke my pin through, nest it into that 1/4 inch groove that I made, rotate it up, and then I'm going to pin it. It doesn't want to stay. Why are you being so difficult? There we go. And I found I'm actually liking to pin one past it just to kind of keep that, it's going to hold, oops, I didn't even get it. It's going to hold this seam allowance flat so it can't fold up on me as it comes next to my needle plate. Okay, so I'm going to go do this exactly like we did on the other ones. I'm going to sew down to my dot, stop, pivot, and then sew down towards the end. So I'll meet you back here. Okay, so we did that same exact Y seam, and then when we fold it open, we're gonna get that lovely shape. So I will go press these open and then we'll, okay, so now we've got those two sewn together. I actually did pick out about a 1/4 inch here. I wasn't thinking and sewed that all the way on. So now we've got this piece, we're gonna attach it to this one with that same Y in mind. So I'm going to mark my 1/4 inch here. The only difference is I'm going to mark a 1/4 inch on both of these outer corners as well. So we're going to start on a dot, sew to the dot, pivot, sew to the other dot, and backstitch. So we're going to backstitch on the front and the end, and we're going to start and stop on a dot because this is like it's like a double Y. It's a double rainbow. Just kidding. Okay. So we're going to rotate that ruler so we can get all 3 of these marked. And then I'm going to flip it back over because I just moved stuff and who knows if I moved it wrong. Okay, so then we're going to poke our pin through here, bed it in that 1/4 inch that we just opened up, rotate it to the correct side, and we're going to pin it. Now I have noticed sometimes that pin will slip out as I'm pinning, so just make sure it's seated all the way down as far as it'll go in that 1/4 inch seam because you don't want it to creep up and then on the back fabric you've only caught like 1/8 of an inch. Okay. So we're going to take this over to the machine, start on the dot, backstitch, rotate at this dot, and then come all the way to the end and we'll be on this dot and we're going to stop at the dot. Okay? Okay guys, so now your block should look something like this. We've got our last 2 pieces here. These are still split at our 1/4 inch seam. So now we're just going to flip that in, use our tool. This should be kind of getting into a rhythm now. We got past the tough part by getting that whole circle joined. It's a little bit different than when you've got 6, or well, you can do it as half circles, but this one doesn't work out that way. Okay. So I'm just going to pin this one over here so I don't get confused. I'm going to poke my pin, line it up in the seam, hold it still and pivot. Yeah, see that just popped out just now. And you know what? I noticed a couple times as I was sewing, when I went to pivot, I wasn't holding this new fabric under the presser foot as much as I should have. So pulling that back snug against the down needle right before you take off and start dropping the presser foot and start sewing again helped me kind of keep those corners in a better alignment. I don't know if that made sense. I'll try to show you guys on this next pass. Okay, so we're going to sew from the end to our dot and then pivot. as I'm approaching it, I kind of like to give this under fabric a little bit of a pull just to ensure that I don't accidentally stitch onto it. Then when I pick it up and rotate, a couple times I found that as I was getting ready to take off again, I had actually pulled this fabric, the browns, away from the needle, so it was no longer like centered. So what I find is I'm actually kind of pushing this brown fabric into the needle as I align it, and then keeping it rotated just to make sure that it is all the way up against that gap. Let me show you that again. So if you look right here, I want to make sure that brown fabric is pushed all the way up under there. Sorry, I know every time I try to gesticulate with my hand, I cover up the camera angle. All right, drop the needle, off we go. And in the spirit of time saving, I'm just going to go ahead and do this other one. So I'm going to poke my pin through, drop it in that seam allowance. Okay. So I just like to kind of pull it a little bit, make sure that I'm not catching that fabric under. Oh shoot, I just cut it. Well, let's make sure I didn't catch it while we're at it. Force a habit to push that button when I get to the end of the row. Okay. So I'm going to back up just a hair because I don't want a knot of thread to happen back there, and I'm just going to stitch in a couple more. Okay, so I'll lift my presser foot, rotate, kind of fold that under because it's getting a little bulky, and now I'm going to push this fabric up against the needle just to make sure that I haven't pulled it out from under there, because I did pull one out that I was practicing on that had like less than 1/8 of an inch seam on the back, and that's not what we want either. Okay, let's go press our star. So now our star is done. We're going to add a border all the way around it, and I am going to install my personal label as part of that. So I don't think that this is actually going to be visible through it, but I don't know about my background fabric. So my typical pattern is to go ahead and iron it onto a piece of white. So I want to get a piece of white that is big enough for that to sit on, and then I'm just going to take it over here and iron it on real quick. Okay, so it's attached to my white now. I'm going to just trim that up. This is that Bella Solid that I have for miles because I use it all the time. Okay. So now what I want to do is I'm going to flank it in this green border. So I want to leave a little bit of my line available, so I'm going to come just inside of that. So let's just double check. So that's a hair over 1/4 inch. So if I just sew a scant quarter, then I should be good. So I've sewn one side on. I'm just going to give it a quick trim. I don't need this to be perfect just yet. I just want to kind of get it on there. And I find that this is easier than cutting a square of this green fabric and then trying to center it, and that just gets to be a headache. Okay, so now we'll take it over to the pressing station and I'll press it. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this down to size. I didn't have the right left cut down very well, so we're going to leave that. Flip it around. And then I'm going to sew just like I did down both of these other two sides. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just sew a couple of strips onto these outside edges, and then we're going to cut them down. So I'm not going to pre-cut them. I'm just going to get it lined up. These are 3 1/4 inch borders, but you can make them any size that works for you. Okay, so I'm just going to trim that off. I'm going to follow the line of my fabric here mostly. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to sew one on the opposite side over here. So, and I'm going to trim that off. It really won't matter. Okay, so opposite side. I'm going to sew this one on over here. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit longer ruler now, and I'm just going to continue this angle. Now it looks like a piece of candy, doesn't it? Okay. So I'm going to trim this side up. Okay, so now I'm going to take my same strip and I'm going to find two other opposite corners and I'm going to go from one side to the other. Okay, so I've done those two opposite corners. Let me press this one open.
It's really good.
Okay, so I'm going to trim this to match the lines that I've already created. This is our two opposite corners again. And I'm just trying to make sure that I'm continuing that line. And so now we have two sides that don't have a border on them. So now we're going to take our label and I'm going to make sure my other two pieces are long enough to cover this last side, and I'm going to sew one on each side. Okay, so now I've got this pressed, ready to go. I know that it's long enough to cover, so I'm going to center it on my scissors and this point. And then I will have one side left to do over here on the top that'll just be a plain green section. Okay, so now I'm going to attach our last strip across the top and then we'll trim it down. So now we've got all of our sides attached. Now all we have to do is trim it down, and then we're going to have the cutest little octagonal block, and we're going to use this as the label for our quilt. And someone asked me at the end of one of my other videos why I don't piece this into the back, and you absolutely could do this. The straightforward, simplistic answer is I am still pretty new to long arming, and so when I go to load my backing, I don't want to make it so challenging to get the backing in the exact right spot. So generally speaking, I like to have a little bit of extra room. Some of the additional embellishments we've done on the back have been offset on purpose so that it's unique and looks different, but also that way it doesn't have to be perfect when I roll it onto the long arm. So part of the reason I do my labels like this is because I think that they're super cute. It's fun. Now we'll just fold it under, hem it, and then top stitch it down on the back of the quilt. But that keeps me from having a headache when I go to load it on the long arm. Speaking of long arms, let me show you my fabric, what I am about to do. So this is going to be our backing. And let me see if I can get you a bigger swash. Not with seams in it. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be our backing. And then this is going to be our accent corner that has our label in it. And it's going to be just slightly smaller because I am going to roll those edges under to hem it on. So let's get it loaded up on the long arm so we can get it finished. All right, guys, this may be a complete mistake. I do not own channel locks, nor do I have a ruler plate. We're still just getting set up with the long arm, but I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to try to straight stitch across this guy because I think that's going to look the cutest. So we'll see. Fingers crossed I don't totally mess it up. So this is where I started my stitch line, and I'm pretty impressed. That one star was kind of off, but then we stayed just under, like an 1/8 of an inch under, all the way down, and then here it kind of closes the gap right at the end. I'm pretty stinking impressed with that. I just pulled it off the long arm and I didn't screw it up. I do not have a channel lock, nor did I have a ruler plate, but I really wanted to straight line it. It is not perfect, but I am so tickled pink with how it turned out given the tools at hand. And if you don't know, now you know. I really try to make do with what I have, and I'm a bit of a bulldozer. And once I decide I'm going to do something, I'm kind of going to do it. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial as much as I have enjoyed making it, and just stretch yourself and give yourself a chance. And even if it's not perfect, you will never see it from the back of a galloping horse. I'm ready to bind, and just like normal, I'm going to use Joy's method here. Thank you again. And we're just going to stitch this binding on. Now, I like to stitch my binding on from the back now. I used to always stitch it on from the front first, but I feel like there's a seam. I'll show it to you guys when we're done. When you sew it on the back first, then you pull it around to the front. Number one, I end up getting a little bit wider binding on the front, which I like. And then also, there's going to be a line on the back side when I top stitch it down, and that line, if it's not perfectly straight, isn't super obvious to me on the back, but it is pretty obvious to me on the front. So I'm going to leave myself a tail so that I can make the join, and we will start stitching. Okay, so I'm not quite halfway around the quilt yet, but I'm going to swap to a green thread just to kind of have a chance to audition that and see what it looks like. I don't have just a ton of green colors in these, but I have some old embroidery thread that might work. Although this one looks, that may be a bit light. Let's see this one. That's too dark. That's pretty close. Let me see my other color. Hey guys, I think I bought these in like 2010. I don't know what brand name they were. They were me being super cheap and not wanting to buy real embroidery thread except for the silky. And so I still use them from time to time when I'm doing something simple like top stitching something down. And I think that's a good match actually. Okay, so this one might be better. So it's nice to have the depth of color, and I'm not going to throw them away, but I'm not going to piece them either. I like that one too. Okay, so we'll audition those two and see what we think. All the way around. I'm going to take my pin out, and so now you guys can see this is this medium green. I'll try to zoom the camera in because that light is a little bit better. And then we had our, oops, I guess I sewed with that for a bit. So we had our medium green and then our dark green, and I didn't like the dark green that much. And then we have our white. I'm kind of leaning towards the white. I know that's super boring. I'll take some better pictures for you guys. But first, we have to do this join. All right, so we've got our two that want to overlap. Okay guys, even my yellow scissors are gone right now. I have to get my big old applique scissors out. Okay, so I want to overlap a 1/4 inch. I know this probably makes some of you guys like totally cringe. Makes me cringe a little too, but it always works out. All right, there we go. I love these great big scissors of Lori's. They are super sharp. They cut really well. They are, you know, frightening. They look like a weapon. I certainly would not want any of my kids to touch them, not only from ruining my fabric, but also I wouldn't want them to get hurt. All right, so we'll pin this because I did not leave a very long space this time. So I was watching a video today about a new creative, well, it's not new to me, creative grids ruler that has a angle on it that's supposed to help with binding strips and corners, and I think I may have to check it out. I typically use my binding on the straight, and I know there's a lot of people that only do, it's not on the bias. I guess it's sewing the strips on the bias, but I have never been disappointed in my quilts that have the straight binding. Okay, so we will press that open. Actually, finger pressing may be the only option here. It's pretty tight. That's what fingernails are for, right? All right, so I'll finger press that open. And then I heard a good tip today. If you are pulling your binding back tight and it feels like there's a slightest bit of excess, if you flip it over, your feed dogs will help you pull it through. This one doesn't seem to have that problem, but just good to know. Guys, we are all set. So I think for my bobbin, I'm going to stick with the white for here. And the question really is if I'm going to do this green or the white. I think they both look good. I'm just going to roll with the green. It's already loaded. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Okay, and when I get close to the corner, I like to go ahead and flip it up. I did not iron this one. I'm just gonna go. Just gonna go. Okay, so now our binding is all sewn on, and I'm going to just test. This is the same fabric I used on my around the border. And I just want to see what that looks like. If I top stitch with it, I think it's probably close enough, but I want to double check, and I think that's going to look fine. So I am going to go ahead and load up the same color that I did my quilting with in the bobbin, because this green thread that's on the top is a poly, and I think it will do just fine to have a poly in my bobbin. So this was the one I used to quilt the top. I know it looks a little bit purple, but it actually blended really nicely with all the colors in the front, and given that I was kind of concerned that my colors weren't going to be beautiful, I wanted to give myself some grace. So this is a 60 weight glide thread, and so that's a little finer than normal, which just kind of means that it's going to disappear into the quilt a little bit more, which is what I wanted. So I'll find the little groove. It doesn't actually snap on, it just sits on there, but once you get it in the groove, I shouldn't need too much We'll go ahead and put that in the bobbin. I guess I didn't have to actually break the green thread. Oh, I didn't break the green thread, I just moved it. Yeah, my binding kind of threw me for a loop. I don't need that up there anymore. But it is nice to have a spot for it. Yeah, I really like that Glide 60. When I use the 60 in my bobbin, it lasts forever on the long arm. In fact, I did that whole entire quilt with just one bobbin, and I probably have a good amount of it still left. So if you're annoyed with bobbin changes, maybe throw a 60 weight in the bobbin. Okay, so I like that color. I'm going to get this placed on my block. Our label totally made and our finished quilt, and I think that this is all going to look really nice together. So I'm going to pin it in place and I'm going to top stitch it down. Okay guys, I just threw a couple pins in it, mostly on the corners. I've got my green thread on the top. The back is this same kind of grayish thread that I used on my quilting, and we will head off. I'm going to start in this corner. It's a little bit smushed, but not too bad. I do love the throat space on this Juki. I can get almost anything through there. All right, guys, June Sew Sampler is done. I hope you have enjoyed this quilt as much as I have. I will tell you, I first opened the box and was like, eep, that one looks scary, but I had so much fun. These rulers make it so easy. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be buying the bigger size ruler as well because I just had so much fun. So I'm going to get this up on the design wall, get you guys some photographs of it. I want to see what you're doing. Jump over to our Facebook group and show me there. The question is, can you tell which corner my label is in? I'll give you a second. Found it. This has been such a fun project, guys. Okay, that is a wrap on our June Sew Sampler. I hope you guys enjoyed sewing this one along with me. I certainly had a lot more fun than I thought. When I first opened that box, I was like, ooh, this one's gonna be rough. But it was a ton of fun, and I really do think that I'm going to be ordering that bigger ruler because I think I'm going to be doing more of these type of patterns. If you've got some other patterns that use this 60-degree ruler, definitely share them with me because I'm interested in seeing what else is out there. I had so much fun with this pattern. I hope you guys did too. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. That helps me out so much. If you enjoy watching these videos, then you can hit that bell button and you'll see it as soon as I upload the next one. And until then, I will see you guys next time.